Hello and welcome to Gold Wrenching. Tonight we're going to stuff a 3.5 liter Toyota V6 into this Toyota Camry here.
It's missing a few pieces, so we'll have to do some swapping.
It's a cab and it's got lots of miles on it, and we're going to drop the motor and tranny together right out of the bottom of it. You always want to center your load. Draw a straight line from the load, being the car, down through all the wood that you're using, right down to the top of the jack. Because if your load's over here and your jack head's over here, guess what's going to happen to the car? We're going to need to get up real high to be able to get that motor down and clear everything.
Now don't forget about this bracket here. It's hidden and it needs to be removed to get the alternator out.
One thing to keep in mind when you're hooking the steering column back up to the rack and pinion is to make sure that the rack is centered and your steering wheel is centered, because a lot of these import vehicles are not master splined, so you can put it in any direction, any position on that rack and pinion. So if you end up putting it in the wrong position, you can end up having only being able to steer to the left a little bit and steer really far to the right, or vice versa. What you do is take a tape measure and measure from the end of the rack housing up to the end of the tie rod and compare it with the other side and make sure they're even that way before you hook up the steering column. Your alignment guy will appreciate that. So you want to measure from this clamp here back to the end of the center of the tie rod here, and compare that to the other side, keeping them as even as possible. So after you got your steering column hooked up, you want to make sure you got her in the sweet spot by centering up your steering wheel, and then take it all the way in one direction. Count however many turns it takes. We got just over 1.5 in one direction. So now we'll go back to center and we'll count how many turns it takes to get to the other side. 1. Just over 1.5, just like the other side. Looks like we got her in the first try. I've done this a few times. You know those moments when you're working on something and you're almost done, and then all of a sudden there's one small piece of the puzzle that just doesn't quite fit. Well, it turns out that an American Toyota motor has a different style plug-in than a Canadian made one. They plug into the computer fine, but on the junction block here it's got different shaped connectors. Son of a bitch. Well, I'm sure all you guys watching out there have run into a problem similar to mine. Well, I guess I should have checked that out before we put this thing in. Would have been a lot easier to change out the harness outside the car than inside. But I'm going to have to look at some wiring diagrams, and I'm going to have to swap some connectors around here. That'd be easier than changing out the whole harness.